Hello everyone and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today we're going to prepare pierogies. If you've never had one, I can compare it to an Italian ravioli in that you make a dough, a filling, and a sauce. The dough is a little bit different, but fillings are somewhat similar. You can make a mushroom filling, you can make a potato and cheese filling, you can make a meat filling, you can even do a fruit filling. And the first thing that we want to do is prepare our dough. And today we're going to do a potato and cheddar cheese filling. So let's make our dough first. What I have here are 4 large eggs, which I'm going to first whisk. And to that, I'm going to add 4 ounces or 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And now we can add our butter, which I have cooled down. So this is completely cooled. And I have 4 ounces there. Let's whisk that together. So here we're going to use 1 cup of milk. This is whole milk. Get that whisked. So here I have 3 cups of flour, and you want to have an extra cup on the side. So here is our 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I am going to add a teaspoon of kosher salt. Not a lot, just a little bit. Okay? Just use a wooden spoon and mix this together until you have a nice dough. And then we'll just knead the dough for about 2 minutes. Then you want to saran it and put it in the refrigerator for about an hour, just to let it rest. Okay, so you can see that this dough is very soft and quite sticky. So you know that you need to add more flour because you wouldn't be able to roll this or work with it. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of flour. Just sprinkle a little over the top. And I do have a round pastry scraper. One side of my pastry scraper is rounded here, which makes it really nice to go in and go around the bowl and get this kind of mixed together. I think we still need more flour. So let me just go ahead and sprinkle more flour in here. And in the meantime, for the filling for this amount of dough, you would need 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes. You could also use boiling potatoes, which is about 4 medium russet potatoes. I have them on the stove cooking right now. And I do salt my water. And I do leave them in their jackets while they are boiling so that they don't absorb. They stay nice and dry and they don't absorb any of the water. So it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for the potato to fully cook. And what I use is a skewer like this just to go into the potato, and if it's fully cooked and nice and tender, you know it's done. Then you can let your potato cool a little bit before you remove the outer skin. Okay. This looks pretty nice. And now I think we can work with it right directly on our board. So I'm going to add a little bit of flour here and put the dough right onto our work surface here. Now what we want to do is put a little bit of flour on the top, and actually I can still use my pastry scraper here to work with it a little bit. Just pick it up, move it around a little bit until you get the right consistency. It's a nice, beautiful dough to work with. As you can see, I'm probably going to use my entire cup of flour. it looks like we used our whole cup of flour. So in this case, we used an entire 4 cups of flour total. There we go. This looks really nice. Then what you want to do is just saran wrap this and put it in your refrigerator for an hour to let it rest. If you need to add more flour than the 4 cups to achieve a dough that is not sticky, by all means, that's what you do. Add a little more flour until you get your dough where it is not sticky. You want it to be nice and smooth. I'm going to come closer to the camera so that you can hopefully get a really good look at the dough. Okay, so here is our beautiful dough, and if you take your thumb and go in, it should bounce back a little bit. You see that? So that looks really, really nice. Here's our dough. Okay, let's get this saran wrapped and get it chilled. And in the meantime, we can prepare our filling. Nice. So we'll get this in the fridge for about an hour. Let's make our filling. So I just removed the russet potatoes from the boiling water. It's completely cooked. I used my skewer to go in, and they are perfect. So now what we want to do is remove the outer skin from the 4 potatoes. And if they're too warm for you, you can use a dish towel, you could use a paper towel, but it certainly does help in being able to get this accomplished. You do want to make the filling while the potatoes are warm, at least warm, if not hot. And I'm going to use my ricer to pass the potato through, but you can use just a regular potato masher. Either just use an old-fashioned potato masher or a ricer. Okay. Get that in, and we will work on getting the rest of these peeled. Let's just pass this through. This is quite a bit of filling and quite a bit of dough that we've made here. I don't make pierogies very often, so I want to have some left over to definitely freeze so I can have them later on. So you can very easily cut this entire recipe in half. Okay, so as I said, I did salt my water to cook my potato, and I happen to love the onion flavor. So here I sauteed 1 sweet onion, and I'm going to, it took about 10 minutes, and I also added a little pinch of kosher salt to sweat the onions. And there's a little bit of color. I have a tiny bit of color here. They're just very lightly caramelized. There you go. So we're going to put that, you can use anywhere from a small to a medium onion. This was about a medium-sized onion. So let's add the sauteed onion to the potato filling. And to that, you're also going to add 6 ounces, about 2 cups, 2 good cups of cheddar cheese, a nice strong cheddar cheese. So we're going to add that. And then we need a little bit of seasoning. Let's go with about a ½ teaspoon of kosher salt, because there is salt already in the cheese, obviously. And I did salt the water for the potatoes. So we'll start with a ½ teaspoon. I would also like to add some fresh ground black pepper. And we're going to add a little bit of fresh nutmeg. And here is our nutmeg. And that is all there is to the filling. And just taste it. Make sure you feel that there's enough cheese, and definitely make sure it's seasoned properly, because once you fill your dough, you can't change the taste. So you want to make sure that it's nicely seasoned at this point. So let's get up close here so that you can see how nice and dry this filling is. I'm going to just lift some out. That's pretty good. So it's really dry. You see that? There's absolutely no moisture there, which is good. That's what you want. And here we go. Here's our beautiful potato filling, which that can just rest. I would say one good bunch of scallions to every 8 tablespoons or 4 ounces of butter. I think you would want a nice bunch of scallions. So let's just slide this over. And you just clean them up, wash them, which I've already done, cut off the ends, and you can slice this on the diagonal. And what I do is I saute the white part of the onion, and then I garnish the top of the pierogis. After I have mixed the pierogi with the sauce, I'll garnish with the green tops. Those don't need to be cooked. So I'll just go in on the diagonal and get these all sliced. So let's just cut. We'll start with 8 tablespoons of butter. We'll get that melted while we slice our scallions. Okay, that's the end of our scallions. Our scallions are all set. I have our butter melting on the stove, and we will add the scallions to the butter. And this only takes, scallions don't take very long to saute. It'll only take about 2 to 3 minutes, and it'll be all set and ready for you. Okay? So this looks good. We'll let it melt just a touch more. And in the meantime, let's take our greens, our tops, and get those sliced and have them ready for when we actually eat our pierogis. Looks good. So let's throw in our scallions. And we can also add a pinch of salt. I'm using kosher salt here. And let those cook. And that's it. Let's come around and show it. Hopefully you can see it. Let's take a look and see if I can give you a good shot of them without them coming out of the pot. There we go. You can see the scallions. So we are back and ready to make our pierogis. I just want to say that if you have a small area in which to roll your dough out in, you probably want to cut the dough into maybe quarter it or even maybe in 6 so that you don't have too much dough. If you have a very large surface, then you can just really roll all your dough out. But in this case, I have a small cutting board in front of me. That's what I'm going to use. So I'm just going to cut off a piece of the dough. And I need, oh, right here, my pastry scraper. So let's just cut off a piece. And it feels a little on the sticky side. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that our dough is not sticky. I'm going to take a little bit of flour onto the board and just flatten out the dough. This dough is beautiful to work with, but you definitely don't want it to be sticky. There we go. It stretches beautifully. It's really gorgeous dough. And I have to say that the filling is fantastic. You also want your dough to be equally as delicious. And this dough really is wonderful. Okay. So here's the trick. You can't have too much flour on your board when you get ready to roll it out, because what'll happen is the dough won't stretch. You need to have a small amount of flour on your board so that your dough does actually, in fact, stretch. So I think it doesn't feel sticky anymore. It feels nice. If you feel any spots where it is sticky, definitely take a little extra flour. So let me just slide this over a little bit. And just take your rolling pin, roll away from you, and roll down towards you. You always want to be able to lift your dough, make sure that it is not sticking to your board, because then it'll be hard to actually pick up the dough and shape your pierogies. Okay, this looks really beautiful. And you want to roll it to about, I would say, an 1/8 inch thick. As I told you, this dough, pierogies are definitely thicker and more doughier than a ravioli. And that's why I think it's really important to have a wonderful dough, a wonderful tasting, wonderful flavor. Okay, I'd say this is about 1/8 inch thick, which is what we're looking for. And you can even just take your hand and pick it up and stretch the dough with your hand, as I'm doing right here. There we go. Let's stretch this down. This looks good. I'm just going to go over it one more time. Beautiful. Lift it up again. Once again, you want to make sure it's not sticking. And here it is not, so it looks good. And then we're going to use a 3-inch ring, okay? And just cut out 3-inch rounds of your dough. And you can collect all the remaining dough on your board and actually reuse it again. It's very nice dough to work with. Alrighty. I can see right here it didn't catch it, so just take your knife and you can cut it out. Alright, and then pick up the rest of the dough and you can roll this and we can re-roll it and make more pierogies. And also, let me show you, I have a tiny bit of water, which is what we will use to seal. And here is our potato filling. And I just use this tiny little scoop, but basically you just want small rounds, just little small balls of filling that's going to go inside each dough round. So I would say it's about a good inch. You can even just use a teaspoon and just roll it into a ball and you're all set. And if you do those ahead of time and lay them on your pan, you're all set and ready to go. So I have quite a few here all ready for me. And what you want to do, and it's also really nice, just in one corner of your board, have a little bit of flour. You don't want the dough to be sticky. So what I generally do is I'll take a round, lie it down on the flour, just so when I go ahead and make the pierogi, the outside has a little bit of flour so it doesn't stick to my hands. And you don't want too much water. All you want is just enough to seal each one. So you just take a little bit of water, put a potato ball right in the center, and then just pick it up in your hand, and I use my thumb and forefinger and just go around. So just go all the way around like so. You can also, right on the flour, you can flatten it just a little bit, just so that the filling is kind of dispersed throughout the pierogi. Now I'm going to come around and show it to you so that you can see it close up, and that's how they look. And then just take a sheet pan. I have a piece of parchment here, and you could even dust the top with a little bit of flour just to make sure that it's not going to stick on you. You can even use a dish towel if you want to put all of your pierogi on a dish towel, you can do that. Now, one thing for you to know is that you need to boil all of them before you go ahead and freeze them. You boil them for 5 minutes, you lay them out, you let them dry, and then once they're completely cooled, I actually take the tray, put it in the freezer, I let them get frozen, and then I take them off the tray and put them in a Ziploc bag. So just to let you know, that's how you do it ahead of time. So I have my water boiling on the back burner here. And you want to cook these basically when the pierogi comes to the surface of the water, kind of like a ravioli. They're pretty much done. I would say that you can set your timer for 5 minutes, and then they can go into our butter and scallions, which we've already done, and we can finish cooking them in with the butter and scallions. Let's set that for 5 minutes. And I do have my butter and scallions in my saute pan, ready to go. I'll leave that on low for the time being. So all of the pierogi are now at the bottom of the pot. As they cook, they will come to the surface of the water, okay? Now let's just continue here. Just a touch of water. You don't want to put too much. It'll be difficult to work with. Take your dough into your hand, put the potato in, go around. I always get to the center first, then take your thumb and forefinger and go around. Once again, I put it on my little bit of flour here, flatten it out, and you can always go around and reshape it a little bit too. But the key is to making sure that they are nicely sealed. So let's do another. So we were talking about different fillings. As I said, you could do a nice mushroom filling. Another very popular pierogi would be with a sauerkraut or cabbage filling, which is really very good. And there are some wonderful recipes out there that you could Google and find for different fillings. But I would say this dough is absolutely wonderful. And I already mentioned this, I'm pretty sure, that if you want to make the sauce even a little more decadent, you can add some heavy cream to it. Let that reduce a little bit, and that makes for a really nice sauce as well. But here we'll just use the butter and scallions. Let's check our pierogi. They're looking beautiful. They're all coming to the surface now. I think I can turn. You still want your water to be boiling, but you don't want it to be boiling super hard because you don't want them to break. So I have it still boiling, but not as hard as it was. It's doing good. That was 5 minutes, and what I'm going to do now is shut it off and turn the heat up onto our saute pan here with our scallions and butter. And I'm just using a slotted, you just need to use a slotted spoon and just add them to your butter. And if a little water goes in, that's totally fine. And you just want to cook these for a couple of minutes, maybe a minute or so, and then flip them over. I have a spoon here ready to go, and I have, I would say that 3 for an appetizer is perfect. You could certainly serve 6 or 7 for an entree, depending on how hungry you are, but we'll do this as an appetizer. And just keep an eye, you don't want your butter to burn, you don't want your scallions to burn. You just really want just to kind of let the dough set up a little bit in the saute pan Some people really get them really caramelized on the outside, which you can do. As a matter of fact, when you do put your pierogies into the freezer, you take them out frozen, saute some butter, and the frozen pierogi go right into the frying pan. Don't defrost them. And then they'll take a little bit longer, and you will get a lot of caramelization on the outside of each of your pierogi, which is another way you could do it. Okay, so these look really nice. I'm going to just go ahead and flip them. Let the other side cook a little bit. Okay, these look lovely. So, I would like to come around first to show you before I start to plate. Hopefully you can see them. There you go. Of course, you could certainly do this family style and just serve them on a big platter. Would be very nice too. Then you want to go in and grab some of the butter and some of the scallions right over the top of your dish. Top it with a little black pepper, and then some of our scallion tops. And here are our beautiful pierogi. They are delicious. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you give this a try. They're really delicious. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Cooking with Suzanne Fine Regional Cuisine. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye now.